Today's video is about Robothorium, a cyberpunk-themed turn-based dungeon crawler in which you take the role of a sentient AI who controls a group of robots through the twists and turns of a story revolving around robot rights, various factions, and a lot of debuff stacking. But first, if this is your first time on my channel, good morning, afternoon, evening, I'm Steven Nonsense and gaming and geek culture is what I do. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back. So Robothorium looks a lot like another game I covered a while back called Dungeon Rushers. Not in theme or aesthetic, that one's clearly fantasy set and this one's sci-fi, but the overall vibe of the thing is quite reminiscent of Dungeon Rushers, and that shouldn't come as a big surprise considering that they're made by the same developer, Goblin Studio. The games share a lot of general mechanics, such as the turn-based combat, talent trees, and crafting. There are things that make Robothorium seem a bit more polished and less grindy though. Now, mind you, I haven't played Dungeon Rushers since the summer of 2016, so I'm pretty sure things changed in that game in the meanwhile, but one of the reasons I stopped playing that game was that it seemed to be quite grindy and a lot of the fun and challenge of fights wasn't properly well balanced. It does seem that Robothorium has largely learned from that experience and is a more fluid type of experience, one in which you do feel you're advancing your party and goals at a decent clip. The art direction is very cyberpunk and tech related, but the style itself doesn't really have a lot to set it apart from other recent indie titles. There seems to be a trend towards distancing indie game graphics from a realistic style of coloring. Everything looks fresh out of Photoshop without any sort of extra time put into a more particular style. This isn't a knock against the game, just a bit of an observation of mine. Might be both a budget and time issue. The animations otherwise are pretty well made, and there's a lot of them related to the myriad of positive and negative effects that the robots can showcase during an average fight. Each model of robot has particular stats that will be the same for all models of that particular type. However, they also have a couple of random characteristics which will make them all act slightly different. Then we get to the ability trees. There are quite a few initial combat abilities to choose from, which allows you to customize each robot's fight style. Once you start leveling up, you can improve all of these abilities as well as gain other related bonuses to either improve the abilities or change the way in which the robot functions in battles in particular roles. So now we get to the items and crafting, because much like in other games of its ilk, Robothorium has quite a bit of item management to deal with, and considering the large amount of stats, you'll have to make some tough decisions as to which ones to focus on with items, depending on the type of fight style you adopt with each robot in turn. Considering all the variety and versatility in terms of your robot fight style and role in your party, it makes sense for the game to have a crafting system as well. Not only can you craft, but you can reroll stats for items, and you can recycle the things you don't need anymore into crafting components. Much like in Pillars of Eternity, you can send your robots to do various jobs around the globe. So what this means is that it actually makes sense to maintain a varied and numerous roster of robots and make sure to cycle through them in order to keep them as leveled up as possible. This is a great way of increasing your faction's reputations as well. There are story missions in the game which advance the plot, and usually a couple of secondary ones meant to basically level up your robots and get you more items. During some of these secondary missions, you'll stumble upon a few situations where decisions you'll make will influence your reputation with one or more of the factions, and depending on your reputation with the various factions, you can gain different types of passive buffs. Now, I have read several reviews of the game complaining about bugs and glitches, but during my playtime I haven't really seen anything of the sort, but I also didn't finish the game either, so keep that in mind when deciding if this is the game for you. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Steven Nonsense, and if you made it to the end of the video, then I suggest you be kind, subscribe, since you might enjoy the rest of my channel. See you next time.